people, Wago, and don't know it's the King Boss. Welcome back to Ron's Tech Hub. And today I've got some different tech for you. I've been doing a lot of training videos recently and a lot of exam stuff, but today, as you can see, I'm a big Motorola fan. I've got the G32 in front of me, the G62 and the G82, and I'm actually filming this on the G200, and my secondary phone is a Motorola G8 Plus. I'm a big fan of Motorola. But Motorola, if you're watching this, the one thing I would say to you is update your goddamn phones, right? Some of these phones, the G200 I have is going to be stuck on Android 12 probably. Update these phones, all right? You have really good hardware. Let's let the software catch up. Anyways, I'm going to jump into the spec. I'm going to jump on my PC. I'm going to go over the spec just so you guys can have an overview of what I think so far. I'm back over on the PC now, and I thought, let me try something different because I've never done 3 phones at once. So this is GSM Arena, a website I use a lot just to grab the specs of phone quickly. And as you can see, I've got the G82 here. So the Motorola G82 as the first one, that's the lowest spec one. We have the G62 next, and then we have the G82 at the end. I'm going to go through these specs just so I can have a quick overview, a quick look at what things are, and just maybe speak about them as well. So no surprise that we have 4G and 5G on all these phones. Some of them are supposed to be launched, well, have been launched already. All of them have been launched already actually. So 2022 July, June and May respectively. Body, the dimensions, not something people care about a lot. This is going to be Gorilla Glass, so we have that. And they're all water repellent design. So that's good. You can go for a splash, or your phone can have a splash. Let's say don't go swimming with the phone, right? When I say go for a splash, I mean if you're out in the rain, you should be okay. Now this is where it gets interesting, because prior to this in the past, budget phones are always stuck at 60 hertz. But now we have a sub £200 phone. I actually got my dad's one, is the G32. I got his for like 140 pounds I think. And look, we have an IPS LCD screen at 90 hertz. That's crazy to me. I remember back in the day, like 2, 3, 4 years ago, when a phone had 90 hertz, it was seen as like a top tier flagship, which is expected to be fair, but the fact that this just has it as standard for sub £200, really exciting. Now, the G62 has a 120 hertz screen. Now again, this is normally what we see on some gaming laptops. The Legion 5s I had a while back had a 165 hertz screen, so quite a bit of ways off, but again, this is a mobile phone for £200. And not surprisingly, we have the G82, which has the same 120 Hz screen. However, this has AMOLED. Yes, this is using Samsung's AMOLED technology, so LED in the screen instead of the LCD. So you're going to get those really nice dark blacks, and you're going to get those really rich punchy colors in a phone that's less than, well, in this case, £300. That's amazing to me. Alright, next we have, all of them are roughly 6.5 inches. Now the G82 is 6.6 inches, not a really big difference there. Resolution, all full HD plus, and aspect ratios are all 20:9, so you're going to have really long screens. So when you're watching stuff, you're going to be able to watch stuff at widescreen. Android 12, not surprising there. This is where it gets a bit tricky. Motorola says you will get Android 13, but it's going to be getting Android 13 eventually. We're in, what is it now, December 2022, and I'm telling you, Motorola is very slow on their updates, and I don't understand why, because they're very close to stock Android. Honestly, the only thing they probably need to work on is the drivers for the hardware that they've put in there, and maybe a bit of software tweaks. But I think an issue that Motorola has as well, they do so many phones, it's very hard for them to keep up. I think they might need to scale back on the amount of phones they do and simply try to fix what they already have. For the chipset, this is where it gets a bit interesting as well. The first phone, which is a G32 again, so the first one's the G82, the middle one's the G62, and the last one is the G82. The G32 has a Snapdragon 680 chip. So this was a mid-ranger, let's say a couple of years ago, still a very good chip. Now the G62 has a Snapdragon 480 Plus, which has 5G, so this is going to be an 8nm chip versus a 6nm chip, and weirdly enough, I think, this is just my opinion, I haven't done any benchmarks yet, the 680 4G might perform slightly better or along the same lines as the 480. Now the 480 is a very good chip, and then at the end we have the Snapdragon 695. I was expecting really a Snapdragon 7 something in this chip at least, but hey, there we go. So just a quick recap again, the G32 has a Snapdragon 680, the The G62 has a Snapdragon 480 Plus, and the G82 has a Snapdragon 695. These are all, of course, octa-core processors, and the only one with the lower GPU, which is an Adreno 610, is going to be the Motorola G32. Both the others have an Adreno 619. And another thing which I love seeing on phones, which even on my Motorola G200 I'm filming on now, this doesn't have this feature, and I'm really upset because when I'm filming stuff on my phone, which I do quite a bit, I have to have a memory stick sticking out the phone. Now, it's not necessary, but because I want to quickly transfer stuff to a PC without the cable, I bought a USB-C memory stick so I can record directly to that from my Android phone, plug that into a PC, drag and drop the files, and I'm good to go. I like having memory cards. I like having stuff I'm taking pictures, I'm taking voice notes, stuff like that being backed up. And the fact that this has a SIM card slot that doubles as a micro SD card slot as well, I really do like this feature. So all three of them have it, and it's a bit weird because the phones that cost double, triple, and even quadruple the price don't have a micro SD card slot from different companies. So Samsung, even Motorola themselves, the G200 doesn't have one, and other companies. But the cheaper phones, the phones that cost 100, and I think this one was 150-ish pounds, 160 pounds, that has a micro SD card slot. That's a bit weird to me, but hey, this is just my opinion here. Next, we have the main cameras. Now, this doesn't look very interesting. These look like exactly the same cameras across all three devices. So one of the comments I did want to make was that these phones are basically the same things in most cases, except that they have slightly different processors, but hardware wise they're very similar. This is why I wanted to have a look at them to see maybe why someone would go for one over the other. Automatically, I would think that the G82 is going to be a better overall phone, just because it's obviously the higher number. It should have the slightly better spec, but at the same time, that Snapdragon 480 Plus can do some damage. Next, we have video, and the only one capped at 1080-30 is the Motorola G32. No surprise there at all. The others can go up to 1080p 60 frames per second, very good. Again, all the same front-facing camera, 16 megapixel wide-angle cameras. People don't really care that much about front-facing video in my opinion, but hey, that's there as well. 1080p 30 for all three of them. Loudspeaker, stereo speakers, all of them have stereo speakers, which again is amazing. They double the speaker port at the top, so the speaker that you normally listen through with the phone close to your ear when you're having a phone call, they use that as a speaker, and they use a speaker at the bottom of the phone as well. Because I remember that specifically being a feature of the G8 Plus, which I really like. This was a very loud phone, probably one of the loudest I've ever used. Another feature that we see disappearing from the very expensive top tier phones again is a 3.5mm headphone jack. All these phones have one. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, you don't need one because of Bluetooth. Listen, I need one. I have a headset. The microphone I'm using now, I could have plugged it into my phone directly and gotten really good audio quality. So I need a headset. Not everyone needs one, which is fine, but give me the option at least, please. The fact that these phones can have a 5000 milliamp hour battery, which I didn't even mention. Let me scroll all the way back up. I believe all these phones have a 5000 milliamp hour battery, and they all somehow manage to fit a headphone jack in there. So when people come to me with this foolishness about, oh, it's because we want to make the battery bigger. Come on, stop it. The headphone jack is a very tiny port. It can fit in there, put one in there. I know it's not going to happen, but I can still complain about it, right? After that, we have Wi-Fi, nothing special there. All of them have Bluetooth 5 and above. NFC is something I really do like. I always have my phone with me, so tapping and paying for stuff is very convenient. Infrared is not something we really see on many phones nowadays. FM radio, again, not something many people care about, but if you're in poorer countries, so for example, I'm sending this phone to the Caribbean, my dad can plug a pair of headphones in and he can have radio, for example, right? I've got USB-C. Now this is only USB 2, but again, very okay. Very slow charger. So let me go down to the charging section here, well, the battery section here. All of them again have a 5000 milliamp hour battery. Very good battery life in all of these phones. The only one with a 15-watt charger is actually the G62, which is a bit weird. I would have expected that one to have a 30-watt charger as well. Now the other two have a 30-watt charger, not the fastest in the world, but you know what? I think that's good enough. If I scroll down somewhere, we can look at the prices, and we can see the G32 is saying $179.99, but I can guarantee you can find deals on this at all times. Motorola always has deals, so go check out the deal. The G62 is £200, and the G82 is £350. I found this for £300 or less when I looked, so go have a look. Back on the desk with the phones in front of me, but I'm going to move these two out the way, unbox the G32 and see what it looks like, see if it's even worth the money. There we go, Motorola G32 in hand, gives us a few specs on the front. Let's flick this out and so let's see what's around the phone. So obviously that's the front. To the right of the phone we have the fingerprint sensor, which is just a common thing now to have on the side of the phones. Then we have the volume rocker as well, volume up and volume down. To the top of the phone we have just a single microphone. I'm guessing that's going to be used for noise cancelling. Looking at the phone from the front again, on the left absolutely nothing. Now at the bottom I miss very much that 3.5mm headphone jack. Obviously we have USB-C and we have a downward firing speaker. Now keep in mind that I think the new Motorola phones, what they are doing is downward fire speaker is obviously one speaker and you have another one coming through the headset as well. So that's what the G32 looks like. Dual camera setup here at the back. I'm guessing one of them is a main shooter and the other one is a wide angle shooter. I am filming on the G200 now using a wide angle lens. It only does 1080 30 frames per second, so not the best but good enough. There's no way I could film using any other lens, so I actually don't know how well this video is going to come out, but let's see. So this doesn't look too bad. Now the person who's getting this phone, my dad is not a man who's going to use any of these features at all, but you know what, I said let me just get him a decent phone. And again, for less than £200, you get a 5000 milliamp hour battery, you get a 30-watt charger, you get USB-C, you get a headphone jack, you get memory card slot, you get Android 12. These deals are becoming very hard to beat. And honestly, the only reason I haven't gone for a cheaper phone is purely down to the fact that I don't have a dedicated camera for YouTube stuff. So until I do have a camera, I'm going to have to stick with my G200. But these are very compelling devices. £200, you can't go wrong with this. If you buy this for a child or for an elderly person or just someone who just wants a basic smartphone, all the same apps will work. Everything will work just the same and you get massive battery life because again, these processors are not as power hungry as let's say the Snapdragon 888 I have in my G200. So yeah, that's it. What else comes in the box? Let's see. We have that typical transparent case that comes with it. Not the best case in the world, but you know what? I'm used to buying cases on my phone. So when I get one in the box, I'm actually like, oh, that's quite nice. I don't have to buy a case straight away. These are not very good because they're very slippery. But other than that, decent enough. We don't have a screen protector in the box, but again, I normally jump on eBay or Amazon and buy one for a couple of pounds. Let's see what else we have in the box. Only thing we have in here is we have the USB-C cable and we also have the 30-watt charger, well 33 watts to be specific. Very good to put this in there. And again, I keep going back to the fact that many of these very expensive phones, Samsungs and the iPhones, they actually don't give you a charger in the box. You get the phone and I think you might get a cable if you're lucky, and that's it. Whereas I can buy a fully fledged smartphone with a 5000 milliamp hour battery that will last me days if I'm not a heavy user, and I get a charger as well. Seems like a very hard deal to beat nowadays, especially when so many of these cheaper Android phones are getting the newest version of Android again. But in any case, that's the G32. I'm going to pack this away. The G62. So this one's already been unboxed. This one's already been set up by the person using it. But let's see what it comes with. It's not in a case currently, but let's see what it looks like. So again, from the front, same typical setup with Motorola phones. Fingerprint sensor on the right, volume rocker at the top there. Absolutely nothing on the left except for the SIM tray on this one. At the bottom again, we have our headphone jack, we have our USB-C, and we have our downward firing speaker. On this one on the back, we have a triple camera setup. Slightly better, slightly nicer, very good. Again, this was £200. The G32 and the G62, those are the main competitors of each other because again, for £20 more, you can't really go wrong with this phone. Mainly the same features as I mentioned in the spec section. Looks very nice. Now let's see what comes in this box. I think we get the same type of case. I don't know where this one is, to be fair. The person who's using this phone has already chucked it somewhere, right? But again, £200, not too bad, can't go wrong. I am going to try and do some benchmarks on these in a few minutes. So let's now jump to the Motorola G82. This is the big boy of this lot, let's say. Let's look at this one as well. And similar to the last one, we have the transparent case as well. Oh, actually, this white color looks very nice. You might not be able to see it on camera. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I don't normally like white phones, but this shade or this whatever this is looks very nice. Wow. In any case, 3 cameras at the back again, just like the G62. On the side, on the right hand side, we have the power button again, which doubles as the fingerprint sensor. Volume rockers at the top. Nothing on the left. I believe the SIM tray is there actually, so nothing else on the left. No other interface buttons on the left. At the top we have that single microphone for noise cancelling, and at the bottom we have the headphone jack again, which I love. Another microphone, USB-C, and the downward firing speaker. Again, all 3 phones are set up in more or less exactly the same way, and I do believe that in this box we have a 33-watt charger, just like we did for the previous one. Here we've got all 3 phones, and you would be very hard pressed, I think, to tell which one is which unless you flick them around. So I remember that the G82 is the white one. This is the G62 because it has a triple camera setup. When you have these side by side, it's very hard to see the difference other than the color between them. In this case, the G32 has 2 cameras while the others have 3. Very decent looking phones. I'm really liking the white one, but this is what they look like next to each other. And again, you're going to be getting 6.5 or 6.6 screens. So there's really and truly no difference at all between them. All of them have at the top the microphones for noise cancelling. All of them have on the left hand side the SIM trays. All 3 of them have on the right hand side the fingerprint sensors, which doubles as power buttons, and the volume rockers for each one. Very similar phones. There's nothing really different about them in terms of design. And again, at the bottom we have exactly the same setup. Now Motorola, I feel like they've just recycled this same chassis and flung different specs inside of them, because again, from the left we have headphone jack. After that we have the microphone, USB-C, and finally again downward firing speaker. I feel like Motorola has just recycled these designs. Why? Because it's probably cheaper to use a single factory to make everything, but regardless, I think they look decent. My opinion, I'm going to leave till the very I am really liking the Motorola G62 simply because of that 480 plus. It's going to give you decent performance, and it's going to give you amazing battery life. Why? Because it's a Snapdragon 4 series. That's supposed to be the lower end of the spectrum. Okay, let's do that one more time. Now I feel that the G82 has a nicer sound and more bass to it, but let's do that one more time. Again, G32, G62, G82. Alright, so far G62 definitely louder than G32. All sound pretty decent for non-flagship phones. To be fair, I don't think speaker sound is going to be one of the main things that people pick up these phones for. That G82 screen is brighter, it's punchier, it's just overall a much better display. Everything looks better now. You might not be able to see it here on camera, but if I hold these 2 up to the screen, the one on the right, the blacks are a lot darker, very different. Now many people are probably wondering, which one should you get? Just like anything else in life, it depends. It totally depends. Okay, so the G32, why would you go for G32? You have a budget constraint. You want all the same features like headphone jack, USB-C, decent-ish camera for the average person, fast enough specs. Now remember, this has a Snapdragon 680, so a slightly older chip but still a very capable chip. I think the G32 from my dad is going to be easily the best one. He's not going to take pictures, he's not going to do anything on this one other than maybe use WhatsApp, use the sat nav on there, play some YouTube, play some music, put a memory card in. That's all he's going to use this phone for. So I think this phone for him and this phone for anyone who's similar to him is going to be perfect. Very simple phone again. Why would we use the G62? The G62 is slightly better even though we're using a Snapdragon 480, which is not seen as a top chip or a top range chip, but the 480 Plus, I think the 480 Plus could be a game changer because it's again a 4 series chip. We have a 5000 milliamp hour battery. This should easily last the average person 2 days. You're going to get very good performance. You're going to get all the same features you had on the G32 in a slightly maybe more up-to-date package, because like for example you have the 3 cameras at the back. Again, the experience I found between the G32 and the G62 not to be vastly different. Now, who should get the G82? Everyone else. Again, if you're on a budget, I mean the G82 at 300 plus pounds probably doesn't make much sense, but I can guarantee you Motorola is going to be doing loads of deals over Christmas, bank holidays. If you can grab one, and you will most likely be able to grab one for under 300 pounds, I think that's where the sweet spot is. AMOLED screen, tick. 120 hertz, tick. Snapdragon 695, tick. Android 12, tick. Headphone jack. Not even the Samsung Galaxy S22, the one that costs £1,000, has a headphone jack. You get your dual speaker setup. Not the best sounding speakers in the world, but again, for a mobile phone, they're definitely good enough. You always have the option of grabbing a cheap pair of headphones and plugging in. Again, you have your triple camera setup at the back. It's a decent phone for under 300 pounds, and because it has the AMOLED screen and the 120 hertz, you're going to be good. It's also have the 5000 milliamp hour battery. So I think Motorola is doing something wrong and something right at the same time. What they're doing right, I think they're getting the specs of these phones perfectly right. I think they're getting the marketing wrong. I don't think the G32 makes much sense next to the G62, because again, for £20 difference, all the same features. I don't see why this one exists for £20 less. I think they should scrap that one. I think Motorola should honestly cut down on the amount of phones that they make. Motorola is now the new Samsung. You remember back in the day when Samsung used to just have so many, I'm sure they still do, but they used to just throw every single phone out in the market and see which one sticks. I think that's what Motorola is trying to do. And I do think they need to try and focus a bit more, be more laser focused on like a couple of niche markets. For example, G62 makes sense. Cheap phone, Snapdragon 400 would be really good for those markets where they don't really care about spec. They want really good battery life and a sturdy phone that will last. That will make sense. For the UK market, the American market, the European market, where they have maybe a bit more money to spend and want something a bit flashier, the G82 makes sense. The AMOLED screen, the refresh rate, very, very good. So in my opinion, all these phones are valid. Maybe not so much the G32, but the G62 and G82, definitely phones I would go for. Again, I'm filming on a G200, and if I could go back and get myself a decent camera that does maybe 1080-60 at a solid 1080-60 good quality, I would most likely go for the G62 because of that Snapdragon 480, because I love when phones have battery life, because I love when phones have a memory card slot, because I love when phones have a headphone jack. Because I get that in a single package that's £200 or even less in this case, because I got a deal on this because of Black Friday, I would jump at it. In any case, thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was informative enough. Now, I am working on perfecting or improving, let's say. I'm working on improving my mobile phone and my laptop coverage. Just trying to get better at it, so please bear with me. In any case, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.